please.
I'll let you know when we're live.
Okay.
And we are live.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Senator Jim Dill, Chair of the IFW Committee, and I want to welcome everybody here this morning. We've got a couple language reviews and a couple of work sessions, which will more or less be probably rolled into one on electronic tagging. So before we get into that, we will start with introductions, and I will start with Representative Lyford.
Good morning, Senator. Peter Lyford, District 129, Princeton, Eddington, Northborough, and Vesey.
How do you get on there?
Representative Alley, I'll go with you next. We can hear you, so you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Robert Alley from down in Washington County. I have 12 communities that I work with, and I'm on 2 committees up there, Inland Fish and Game and Department of Marine Resources.
Great,
And,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Representative Hepler.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Allison Hepler, and I represent the towns of Aroustic, Georgetown, Phippsburg, Woolwich, which is where I live, Dresden, and a small part of Richmond.
Thank you. Representative Mason.
Good morning. Thank you, Senator Dill. I'm Rick Mason. I represent District 56, the great people of Lisbon.
Representative Neto.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathy Netto. I represent District 78, which covers all of Winslow and a small portion of Benton.
From the North Country, Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, folks. Danny Martin, House 150, located in northern Aroostook County.
House Chair Landry.
Good morning, Senator Dill and everyone. I'm Scott Landry. I represent the towns of Farmington, New Sharon, District 113.
Senator Black.
Good morning. Russ Black from Wilton, representing Senate District 17, which is all of Franklin County and 4 towns in Kennebec, Belgrade, Mount Vernon, Flyer, and Fayette.
Representative Terrio.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning. I am Representative Tim Terrio. I represent District 79, which is Albion, most of Benton, China, and Unity Plantation.
And Representative Ordway.
Good morning, Senator and everyone. I'm Lester Ordway. I represent District 23, which is part of the town of Standish.
And again, good morning. I'm Jim Dill. I represent District number 5, Northern Penobscot County, and I live in Old Town. And as I mentioned, we have a work session today on electronic tagging of turkey and big game, and we'll probably be working them kind of together on the presentation from Julia, but I think we do have 2 separate bills here to vote on, one on turkey tagging, and I say the other one, LD 1213, which is big game tagging. Then we have 2 language reviews, LD 1873, an act related to airboats, and LD 1663, an act to improve boater safety on main waters. And we have voted on those, and we're just doing language review, final language review, hopefully today. So with that, our clerk this morning, as usual, is Linda LaCroix, and our analyst is Julia McDonald. And with that, I will turn it over to Julia.
Thank you, Chair Dill. So you had asked me to come back today with 2 bills on turkey tagging and big game tagging. But before putting together language on that, I wanted to walk through some of the options and have some more clear direction from the committee on what you would like to see in those drafts. And to work through that, I put together a document that the committee has, but I'll share on my screen.
Representative Martin.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Julia, before you commence with your legal analyst, just for the record, Mr. Chair, I'm reading off the revised agenda that we received. Chapter 49 was 1213, LD is 1213. Is that correct, Julia?
Yes, that's correct.
And what was chapter 121 again?
943.
And that's
Is that
a
LD?
turkey? That's
That's
a
a turkey.
turkey. All right. So what you're going to be sharing with us includes information for both of these?
That's correct.
And when you digest that, or when you summarize that, if you could indicate which one applies to which chapter, that would be great. So all the committee members will fully understand what we're doing.
Yes, absolutely. I'd be happy to do so. And maybe Representative Martin, it'd be one of the reasons that I'm presenting them together is because there's a couple different options, but if the committee decides that they would like to create, report out a bill that is allowing for electronic tagging of both turkey and deer. If that's put into law, the rules will conflict because they're in the registration chapter. And so deciding which animals you'd like to allow electronic tagging for, and then putting them in one bill so that there isn't a conflict of law is likely one of the better options. But with that, I will pull up what we have here.
So if I may, Julia, Mr. Chair, in chapter 49, that was the big game tagging bill, turned into a resolve last year, if you recall. And I'd like to read a portion of that because on January 10th, we discussed both of these, if you recall. The department submitted a presentation, which was really interesting. But I read from chapter 49 the following. The department shall report the department's findings and recommendations, including suggested legislation, to this committee before January 3rd. Well, that took place January 10th, as you well know. So what you're presenting to us today does not include suggested legislation the department, I believe, on January 10th was asked to provide. Is that correct?
I do not have the department's suggested legislation in today's presentation.
Thank you, Julia.
Okay, go ahead, Julia.
So is everyone able to see this here?
Yes.
Great. So just beginning with an overview from the presentation that Representative Martin just referenced on the 10th, the department was presented some concerns, but made the following recommendations in a phased approach. And to begin to assist the committee in making their decision today, we can walk through those recommendations and where we are at with them. So the first was to enact the proposed changes to antlerless deer. We have a hearing on that on February 7th, and it was drafted in that committee amendment. Next, the statutory framework review for crossbows, that was also added in an unallocated section to the committee amendment to LD 116. So the next in the phased approach was for the department to review the statutory framework for hunting licenses and permits, and then to propose those changes during 2023 legislative session. So there are several options that the committee has in order to create that change. One would be to request the letter or to request the change by letter. Another would be through committee bill. And with that option, that can be done either in an unallocated section requesting the department to make these changes, or it can be done in a standalone resolve should no other changes be made at this time. And so here we have the meat, and this is the registration for wild turkey beginning in 2024, and the fall being reinstated in 2024. So these options that we're about to walk through would be applicable to any animal, big game or turkey, that the committee would like to see to have electronic tagging. So there are several options. So the first would be to write a letter asking the department to develop an online mobile telephone system for turkey registration, or deer or big game. And that has no force of law, but it would direct the department to do so. The next would be, and the distinction here is either to direct the department to develop an electronic tagging system, or it can ask the department to implement. So not to develop, but to directly begin with these dates. And there's two ways of doing that. So one can be in an unallocated section that would reflect the statutory changes, or the other would be in a standalone, excuse me, a standalone resolve, which would simply be directing the department to either create or to develop the plan for, or to implement electronic tagging. And then this here, Representative Martin, I think speaks to what you were concerned about, and that is that the reason these are being presented together is that to avoid technical conflicts in law, it should include whatever animals are chosen, turkey, deer, to which the rules will apply that we ask the department to adopt, or that the committee asked the department to adopt. If they are separate, they would create potential conflicts of law, because you'd have two new sections that are both directing the department to adopt rules. So if there's any substantive questions, I'll direct those to the department, but if there's any technical questions about what you'd like to see, I'm happy to answer those.
I'll start, Julia. I have a couple quick questions. Number one, of course, you are referring here specifically to turkey and deer. We also have the option to include bear or moose also. Is that not correct? Because
that is correct.
Okay.
Senator
The next question I have, what exactly are the posture of these two bills in? LD 943 and LD 1213, were they carried over? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Both are in the same posture in that the committee has authority to report out a bill. Neither were carried over. Both were enacted into law.
Both were enacted, so explain that to us. Maybe I'm the only one that's being thick here, but
so both were amended from, so the language that Representative Martin read from 1213, that was amended into a resolve that directed the department to provide the report that he cited. And similarly, the LD that was turkey tagging was also enacted into law and directed the department to provide a report to the committee that was presented in unison with the big game proposal on January 10th.
okay, so if we want to enact this into law, then we have to go through the process of putting a committee bill together, having it referred back to us, and us hearing it.
So, excuse me, for as far as action taken, so one option is to have a committee bill, and that can be done either by being referred back, in which you would take no stance on the substance, or we can work the bill here in committee, and then it can go directly to the floor.
Okay.
There's some technical sort of extra things with those, but those are the two ways that you can report out the committee bill. And again, the other option for addressing these changes that the committee would like would to potentially do so by letter, if at this time there's no statutory changes or force of law that the committee would like to use. Yeah. Senator Dell.
All right, thank you. Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, Julia explained it. I just wanted to make the committee aware that Chapter 49, which is 1213, was turned into a resolve. And again, the resolve directs the department to submit their recommendations and report, which they did on January 10th. And it also says that including suggested legislation, which we have not received from the department. The resolve, Mr. Chair, also suggests that the committee may come out with a committee report. The only thing that I would add is in Julia's work product that she's sharing with us, suggests that the department recommends doing something next year. Because we've really worked hard on this resolve, as you well know, was a 12-to-1 report, eventually enacted into law. I would hope that the committee would move forward and draft legislation, or have the committee draft, the department draft legislation, so we could digest and move forward on this, on both electronic tagging for big game and turkeys as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Representative Ordway.
Yeah, I would say that I would be looking for that, agreeing with the Representative Martin, I'd be looking for that wording or proposed legislation from the department before we do anything.
All right. Representative Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm reading here. So this is going to be implemented in the beginning of spring of 24. Is that when this would take effect?
It looks like fall of 24, but
Fall of 24.
yeah.
I mean, that's a couple of years away before this takes off. Is that mainly for the department to come up to speed with the infrastructure per se?
I would assume if we pass this and says, yes, there's going to be electronic tagging, this gives them approximately 2 years to put into play the actual procedure. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So between now and then, we'd maintain what we're doing now, taking them to a tagging station.
Well, depending on what we do, if we go with electronic tagging or not, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Commissioner Camuso, did you want to weigh in here on some of the questions we've been kind of addressing towards the department?
Thank you, Senator Dill. Yeah, I would just like to clarify that the department was looking for direction from the committee on exactly which changes they want us to make. We have proposed legislation. We have 8 pages of proposed changes that would be needed to be adjusted. So it depends on what the committee's direction is.
Okay. So if I understand you, if we say, yes, let's do turkey and deer, but not moose, and so you then would be able to come back to us fairly quickly with how that would be enacted, or any combination thereof.
Right, and keep in mind that many of these proposed changes require things, simplification. So in order for us to make, and I'll just use this example, electronic tagging viable for deer, we need to eliminate the swaps and transfers. So, we need to have those, there's sort of a linear order that things have to happen before this tagging system will be functional for the public.
Right.
And so that's why we had need to push it out to 24.
Okay. Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, it was my understanding when the department on January 10th submitted their report to us on information that we asked them to come up with legislation that we could further digest. Now, clearly, the department's going to need some time here, and I'm not concerned and not necessarily opposed to a phase-in approach. But I guess my question to the commissioner would be, do you have a draft legislation in hand, Commissioner?
Representative Martin, we could certainly have draft legislation. We have, I think 8 pages of of draft legislation, but it depends on if you want us to move forward with turkey. There are certain changes that will need to be made. If you want us to move forward with turkey and deer, there are different changes. There's also a bunch of technical changes that will have to happen, and that would, in order for us to be able to manage the state's wildlife appropriately, we're going to need to have folks that right now do not have to register with us start to register with us, so that we can have a sense of who exactly is hunting. And so for us to say estimate success rates and compliance rates, we need to know how many youths are hunting turkey. Right now, youths don't need a permit to hunt turkey. As many landowners don't need a permit to hunt turkey, lifetime license. So there are all these complications to all these folks that have lifetime licenses that they don't have to register with us to hunt deer. And so there's a lot of changes that will need to be made. And so we would like to know from the committee. I think our approach is the simplest thing for right now would be to move forward with electronic tagging for turkey for 2024, clear up all the other sort of outstanding issues, and then move forward from there and implement other species as the committee directs us in the future.
But as, thank you, Commissioner, as Representative Ordway suggested, it would be great if the department would come up with something rather than the committee, because you're better prepared to do that. And during a public hearing or a work session, we could digest that and clarify exactly what the committee would like the department to move forward with.
Sure, we have the draft legislation. It just depends on what you want us to move forward with, turkey or turkey and deer.
Thank you.
So then, Commissioner, when we get done with this discussion today, if we say move forward with turkey and deer, you're prepared to give us something, say next week, that would show us what that is. If we just say one or the other, the same thing, you're ready. So what you need from us today is direction on what to move forward with. All species or no species, correct?
Exactly. Yep. All 1, 2, whatever the committee's preference is, we'll be prepared to move forward.
Let me ask you this.
That some of the other, particularly with deer, that some of the other, you haven't approved the other changes for deer yet. So
right. Let me
so
ask you this. So we seem to be just focusing here on turkey and deer, and I feel that we're missing 2 other ones. Of course, is bear and moose.
Mm-hmm.
So that's still on the table too, that all 4 of these could be electronically tagged. Is that correct? If we said to do that, you have.
I think the department made it clear that we are not confident that we could collect the biological data necessary for bear and moose without a substantial fiscal note. So and honestly, to collect the biological data for deer is going to have a substantial fiscal note as well. So I think we are uncomfortable at this point moving forward with electronic tagging for bear and moose. But if the committee directs us to do that, of course, that is what the department will do, and we'll do our very best.
No, I'm fine with that. I just wanted to make sure that we're all talking the same language here.
Yeah.
Okay. Representative Ordway.
Thank you, Senator. Just my opinion on this is that I want to see the state 2 bills. I don't want to see, I'm in favor of turkey, but I think that electronic tagging actually hamstrings the work of the department along with biology, collection data. I could go for turkey, but I'm definitely not in favor of any big game being electronically tagged.
Thank you. Representative Landry.
Thank you, Senator Dill, Commissioner. It sounds like we definitely have to stay with 2 bills here. In my mind, the turkeys, everybody is pretty much in agreement. It sounds as if the department can develop one electronic platform that can be tuned or tweaked for each species as it may come. But, I really think we have to move forward with a turkey bill, direct them to go ahead with that, set up the platform, and consider options on deer. And they don't want to do bear and moose. I can see that too.
Okay, Representative Lyford.
Thank you, Senator. I agree that that we ought to move forward with turkey, and that's all. I let the department put things together on the deer. I do very much like the idea of the guides having a chance to sometime in the future tag deer. I just as soon not see moose ever electronically tagged. Thank you.
All right. Other questions, thoughts? All right, so what I'm hearing is, it seems that if we so desired, we could easily go ahead and move forward with the turkey and exclude deer at this time. Representative Ordway.
Yeah, just what Representative Lightfoot just said sparked a little thing in my mind, that maybe it's possible that we allowed guides to electronically, if they could tag big game, if they could provide the data that the department needs to manage big game.
Okay.
But overall tagging electronically of big game, I'm a no.
Representative Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not opposed to having two bills, one for turkey and one for big game. But the resolve on big game does strongly suggest, and it says shall include suggested legislation. So I would hope that the committee and the department would agree to at least draft legislation on both turkey and big game, and then bring this back to the committee. Then the committee can digest it and take a vote as to whether or not we move forward. But we need to comply with the resolve contained in the language contained in chapter 49.
Julia, if we move in the manner that Representative Martin just said, it appears that the department already has language that they could quickly get together and work with you to bring us back the two parallel legislation, electronic tagging of turkey and deer. Is that something that you would see that's doable fairly quickly?
Yes, let me clarify what you're asking. So you would like to see one committee bill that either directs the department to develop or to implement electronic tagging, and side by side, not that they would be alternatives, would include both turkey and deer.
No, one would be for turkey and one would be for deer. We would actually have two pieces of legislation coming
I
to
see.
us. Yep. And therefore we can vote however each individual wants to on one or the other or both. They can, so that way it's possible, from what I'm hearing, that there may be a split vote, there may be not a split vote, it may be ought to pass on one and ought not to pass on the other unanimously. I don't know until we have the legislation in front of us and what is being proposed.
Absolutely, Senator Dell. The only thing that I would like to point out with that is that if we're both the turkey as written to pass and the deer as written to pass, that would create a conflict of law. So I'm happy to bring back that draft language that would provide the options, but they would need to it would create a conflict if both were passed. So it might be I could do turkey deer and then another with turkey and deer. A substantive conversation could follow, and the best option could then be
What is the
reported
conflict?
out.
What is the conflict in law that it would create if we do them separately?
So if you're going for the rules to, if you're going with the option of doing a committee bill that is asking the department to implement a electronic tagging system by 2024, then when you have both of those pass, you would have two rule sections that would both be replacing the current statute. So that's a conflict. The way that the registration chapter is written would be the way that would make sense to do that would be for it to list which animals the department is being asked to adopt rules about. So adopt rules about turkey, adopt rules about moose, or adopt rules about turkey, bears, and deer, or adopt rules that just but one direction.
All right, so let me ask you this. Let's say we do 2 separate bills and we do deer first. If it doesn't pass, it's thrown away, no harm, no foul. If we do the deer one first and it does pass, then we take up the turkey. Could we not amend the turkey bill at that time to include deer?
Yes, I'm happy to come back with the options that would provide for whichever animal the committee chooses to be enacted.
All right, Representative Terrio.
Thank you, Senator. I am 100% for the turkey tagging. And I really, really like the thought that we could compromise saying that electronic tagging could be done by guides. I think they are capable of collecting the data that the department would want, and it would be a good start to see how the whole system would work without throwing, you know, I'd like to think that everybody's honest, but they're not. So reality is that we'd have a better chance of seeing how the whole electronic tagging going if we only had guides having the ability to tag, and you could throw in the moose and the bear with that, and they're capable of giving you all the data that you need. So either we trust the guides or we don't. I would feel more comfortable with that than anything else that I've heard so far. So I like the sounds of that a lot. So it's something to think about.
Okay. I'll go to Representative Lightfoot, then we'll go back to the department to answer some of these questions. Representative Lightfoot.
Thank you, Senator. The reason I agree with Representative Terrio on the guides is that, but I just said bear because we are so out of balance in the state with bear. I mean, there are, what, 10,000 more than the manageable herd. So, you know, and I'd like to hear from the department, would they be able to implement that by 2024 to the guides? Thank you.
Yep. All right, so I'll let the director and the deputy director arm wrestle on who wants to go first here, but
I'll take the first crack, Senator
Okay.
Dill, and then let Tim step in. So a couple things. At this point, as the department indicated in our report on page 21, the department will continue to work with guides to expand their capacity to register bear. We can certainly extend that for other species as well. They would just become tagging agents. And so as you all remember, all of our tagging is electronic now. So there are no more paper tags, you know, so when you go to tag your animal, it's all done digitally. So we can certainly work with, and we have been working with the guides to get more of them set up as tagging agents. So that would be a similar process. So we can and will continue to do that. The other thing is we can share legislation with you right now. If somebody wants to make the deputy commissioner able to share his screen, I think the wildlife director is in the room with him and Nate can walk you through the proposed legislation. I would just add, I would strongly discourage the moving to electronic tagging for bear or moose. And in particular, I think everyone is aware that we are in just the first year of an adaptive moose hunt. The department has invested millions of dollars trying to get a handle on moose. We have biologists at all the check stations. And with all due respect, most people don't realize there are ticks on those moose. And we do actually have people collecting biological data that are really not something that we are willing to yield at this point in time to anybody other than our wardens and biologists that are assigned to those stations. So I don't think that would be a wise move in the state's in the best interest of the state's wildlife at this point. So perhaps Deputy Commissioner, if Director Webb is in the room with you, if you could, or if the committee wants to see the proposed legislation, we can certainly share that with you now.
Yeah, let me, before I go back to Tim then, and if that's what Deputy Director Peabody is going to do, let me see what the last two questions are that I have at the moment. That's Representative Landry, followed by Representative Ordway.
Thank you, Senator Dill. I don't have a problem with the guides, but how much of a load would we be putting on guides? Would we want them tagging all deer, or are we still going to use the corner store tagging situation? How much do we expect these guides to do? Are they going to be compensated? What would that entail?
So those are a lot of really good questions, Representative Landry. There is, of course, a fee to use the electronic station. There's a cost to everybody to do that. So there's generally an agent fee that is assigned per transaction. You know, there are, I believe, some folks that guide for deers, but I don't think long-term we would envision the guides, you know, we can make it that the guides would have the ability to tag as a tagging agent, and we have been doing that. So there are guides that are tagging agents, and they do both things. They guide and then they tag the people, you know, their sports, you know, their animals. I sort of lost my train of thought. So I don't think that, you know, my guidance is that we move forward with Turkey, give the department time to get the system set up and functioning, and then we can assess the viability of moving forward on a sort of species by species basis. And, you know, we can, as I can't remember who it was, maybe it was Representative Orway or Lyford suggested that once we build the system, we'll be able to add to it. So we will be able to, we won't have to create a whole new system. We'll be able to add to the system as, you know, as everybody gets more comfortable with the system and as we figure out systems, other systems to collect the biological data. So the benefit to moving forward with just turkeys is we do feel that we can collect the majority of the data we would need to with relatively a small fiscal note compared to moose or bear or deer. And keep in mind, and this is the piece that folks sometimes forget, is that the department physically handles 15% of all deer handled in this, harvested in this state. So we have staff taking biological data off of 15%, at least 15% of all the animals harvested, so that we can make sure that we are appropriately managing the species and that they're, you know, that their weight is where we want it to be, or whether they're overpopulated in certain areas or below harvest objectives. You know, those are the benefits of collecting the biological data. And those are the tools we use to manage to keep the deer at healthy levels. And so we believe we can do that if we move forward with electronic tagging, but it will have a price tag. It will not be free. We'll have to have a number of additional contract staff. Those staff will actually be going house to house to look at the deer, particularly in northern, eastern, western Maine. And you know, that will be a substantial fiscal note. And so I would recommend we move forward with Turkey first and let that system get set up. And in that time frame, we can work on things like we'll have to eliminate all the paper tagging agents. So we won't have any more paper tagging agents. We'll deal with all the lifetime license holders who don't ever have to register with the department. We'll work on establishing some sort of registration system. We'll work on all the folks that get free permits from the department, or they don't have to apply for permits, the youth, the veterans, disabled veterans, people over 70, like, you know, all those folks get, they don't have to apply for, they don't have to pay for the permits. So we got to work through all those systems so that we can make sure that we are doing our job and managing the state's wildlife appropriately, and that we have an accurate understanding of what the harvest pressure is and what the success rates are for all of those species. So that was a long-winded answer.
Quick follow-up, Senator Dill.
I don't know here, but yes, go ahead.
Commissioner, what do you think will happen with the poaching of deer with electronic tagging? Yeah, a lot of deer are going to go in the freezer.
Well, it's certainly, I mean, that is an issue that the department always deals with and we always wrestle with. And I, like Representative Terrio, believe most people are good. Most people want to do the right thing. And, the bad apples are going to be bad apples either way. This might allow a few more people to be slip over to the bad apple category. I think what we're most concerned about more than an additional an increase in the number of people truly poaching is a decrease in the number of people who are registering their animals. And so folks may have a valid permit and completely harvest that animal legally. We want to make sure that we have the tools in place to understand that they are actually registering that animal so we can monitor the harvest effectively.
Thank you.
Senator Wardway.
I totally agree with everything the commissioner just said, but wasn't that long ago that this committee directed the department to open more corner store tagging stations? I believe it was last year. And overall, I'm fine with turkey, but overall with big game, I think this is a solution looking for a problem. I'm confident in the way that it's being handled now. It gives the department the data that they need in a positive way, without adding costs, without adding staff. And all right, that's it. I'm going to mute myself.
Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe we heard the commissioner say that the deputy commissioner may have some draft legislation that he wants to share with us, which is okay, and that's great. But I would hope the committee would still want to see two separate pieces of legislation that at a later date we can digest. I personally would like to see something in writing that I could share with my constituents. And then when it comes back to this committee for a work session, we can take an up or down vote on both pieces of legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In regards to some of the comments that have been made, I agree with Representative Martin that I would like to see two separate pieces of legislation that, I can up or down vote on and talk with my constituents. I really don't have any great concern about tagging turkeys, electronically. I really don't. On my farm and the areas in Franklin County where I live, there's more turkeys than there are grouse. I can go out this morning and see 150 turkeys on my farm, and I'd have to go all day on my farm to find 6 or a dozen grouse. And so I mean, we allow grouse we don't tag grouse. So my question is, why are we tagging turkey? I guess I'm one of those guys that in the past has said maybe we ought to have more of an open season on. But when it comes to big game, Representative Landry brought up a point that we've been discussing here locally about the concerns of poaching and so many does and stuff. I just think we're opening up. If we don't, you could be opening it up so well, there's plenty of does, I'll just take another one, put it in my freezer, and so I'm concerned about that. And then what Representative Audrey talked about, I know that my local convenience store, some of them are going to want to be able to do the tag in there. It's part of their tradition. It's something, either you're for electronic tagging of big game or you're not. It's and there's a tradition of taking the deer to the store and tagging it and telling stories about how great a shot it was and how you hunted for 2 weeks. But so I heard the comments. I think we need two pieces of legislation. I'm not sure where I'm going to be on the big game, but I know right now I would vote to tag turkeys electronically or not tag them at all. So
Okay, I'm going to turn to Deputy Commissioner Peabody, ask him to share his screen on legislation. And what I think I'm hearing is once he does this, we're going to be asking the department to work with Julia to take this and put it in a written form with 2 tracks to send back to us, and then we'll have a work session. So I'm looking at 2 weeks from now, possibly for a work session, a week from now for us to receive the information, since it appears that it's already there. So I hope that it wouldn't be a real hardship to get this to us in a week, but that's kind of where I see it right now. So we'll see after what is presented by Deputy Commissioner Peabody.
Thank you, Bill. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Webb to do that presentation. I just want to preface that with it's one of those things where you talk about this issue, you think there's going to be this great big thing with 50 pages of legislation, and this is really one small adjustment that says in 2024 we'll be tagging turkeys electronically, and the rest of that detail is a complicated part, as the commissioner indicated. We're not going to be prepared in this legislative language to lay out all the detailed changes of law that are going to be required to, have a smooth implementation of this. So that type of language will be in unallocated language or some other vehicle with a directive from the committee. But you're just going to see one small piece of language, which I'll have Dr. Webb share. Get it open.
Great, thank you, Deputy Commissioner. I'm Nate, Nate Webb, Wildlife Division Director for the department, and just going to see if I can find the right window here on the commissioner's computer. He's got about 57 windows open. That one there, okay. So as Tim had said, this is just an example that we have not yet shared with Julia that would essentially direct the department to develop a system to allow, and we use the phrase self-registration because it adds clarity to the issue. Currently, our system is electronic, it's web-based, but the registration can only occur at in-person tagging stations. So in this draft language, we've used the phrase self-registration just to make that clear that that's what we're talking about. So this, again, is quite straightforward. So we're in 12301, registration of harvested animals, and this draft simply provides language to direct the department to implement a system, in this case, to self-register wild turkeys by April 1, 2024, and also directs us to adopt rules to implement that system. And we've also drafted some unallocated language that would direct the department to investigate and determine whether any further statutory changes are required to implement a self-registration system for wild turkey, which could include changes to the requirements for licenses and permits to allow us to contact turkey hunters to estimate compliance rates with the self-registration system, with a report back with those suggested changes of next January. So again, this is the simple version that simply directs us to develop this system effective April of 2024, and we would come back in January of 2023 with any further statutory changes to make it work smoothly for hunters.
Questions? Representative Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could I, what Senator Black said, could we eliminate the tagging of turkeys altogether? Like Senator Black said, there's more turkeys out there than there are grouse. I mean, there's thousands of them things.
That's a great question. In our view, registration for turkeys, particularly in the spring, is critical to our ability to manage that species. In Maine, we're quite fortunate where we've had a long period of population growth in our turkey population. following the reintroduction effort that we implemented. Most other states in the East are actually seeing population declines of wild turkey, in some cases quite significant declines, and are curtailing hunting season and bag limits in some cases to address those declines. So we feel very strongly that registration for turkey, particularly in the spring, is critical to allow us to effectively manage that species. In fact, we're just coming off a multi-year project with the University of Maine to allow us to develop more precise population estimates and harvest rate estimates of wild turkey. And that was in response to a public planning effort that indicated that was an important need for turkey management in the state. So we would not be supportive and would, certainly feel that it would be a significant challenge for us to move forward with turkey management without registration.
What's causing the decline in the eastern states?
There's a number of factors. There's a lot of research underway. Harvest is believed to be part of the issue in some states. There's also some emerging diseases that are affecting turkeys in some locations as well. So it's something we're watching very closely. We have not seen that here, but we are an outlier in the Northeast right now with regard to our robust and relatively stable turkey population.
Another question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, follow up.
Could we do, how many turkeys do you need to gain the biological data that you need? Is there a number, like we'd like to have 10,000 turkeys so we can examine them? Is there a number, or you want them all?
So currently for turkeys, we're not collecting biological samples in the way that we are for deer at registration stations. We do collect information on the age and the gender of the animal that's harvested, the location where it was harvested, the date, that sort of thing, just standard information. Currently, we use that information to estimate the population size of turkeys. And as I mentioned, we are just finishing the development of a system that will allow us to do that on a WMD by WMD basis. So the registration data for turkey currently is not so much about collecting biological samples, although that is something we have done in the past. It's about getting an estimate of the harvest that we can use to estimate population size and population trend over time, and also determine the impact of changes to hunting regulations, season lengths, bag limits, those sorts of changes to turkey management.
One more question, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Could we do, like in the spring hunt, maybe an odd even birthday? Would that be something that could be considered? I'm just trying to make it easier for the hunters, and I don't want to, take away from the department at all, but, to get people interested in hunting turkeys. That's the, main reason that I sponsored this bill. Would that be something that could be considered?
So just to clarify, Representative Mason, are you suggesting that we have hunting opportunities or the season open to hunters with different birth years? We have taken that approach in the past where we've staggered the spring turkey season to allow hunters with even or odd birth years to hunt during different portions of the season as a way to spread out the hunting pressure and minimize hunter interference during the season.
Thank you, sir.
Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Was my understanding that the committee was going to be moving forward and asking the department to come up with two separate pieces of legislation that in writing, that we could digest, share with our constituents, and then have a work session on this. This discussion that we're having this morning is great, but if you take a look at the language that's before us, as presented by the department under unallocated language, and that's quite interesting. What this does, it postpones any further discussion until 2023. And that, quite frankly, literally repeals the resolve that was enacted last year. So it would be my hope, again, that the committee would agree to ask the department to come up in writing with two separate pieces of legislation and include it in their recommended format, so we could further discuss at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And before I go to Representative Lyford, if we, and as stated, that's probably where we should be going because that's what we asked for in the resolve. My only question is to Julia and the commissioner is how soon can we have something like that? Because number one was that I think several members said they'd like to see it in writing before we come back and discuss it. So Julia and the commissioner, right? So Julia, how long is this going to take?
We can have that information to you by Monday. As Dr. Webb pointed out, the statutory changes are quite small. It was just our goal to get direction from the committee on what they'd like to see, and we can return with those options on Monday.
All right, so if we have the legislation in hand next week, does the committee want some time to digest it themselves? Or are you ready to go right into a work session once you have it in your hands? And I would actually ask Representative Martin first, just because I understand he's the one that wanted to be able to take it back to his constituents, et cetera.
That would be okay, Mr. Chair. That would be a lot better than what's being presented today. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner, doable?
So I guess I need a little bit of clarity on, you know, with the turkey bill, we're fine, that will be ready today.
But they want all of it.
So I guess what we need to understand is, if do you want all of the complexities ironed out? So, and I'll just walk through some of them right now. Youth don't need to have a turkey permit. That would have to change. And Nate, jump in here because I'm not going to remember them all. You know, over 70 hunters don't need to have a turkey permit. That would need to change. So for those folks, let's just walk through this. So for those folks who actually go onto our system, register and get a permit, is it going to cost them money to do that? Or is that a free transaction? If they go to town hall to get that permit, is the town clerk going to do that for free? Or are they going to charge a fee like they normally do? So these are some of the complexities that we were hoping to take a little more time to work out. Large landowners, same thing. Lifetime license holders don't have to, actually they have to get a permit, but they don't have to register with us that they're hunting. So we don't, when we go back and try and do a postseason survey, we need to know who has actually been hunting. And so, you know, perhaps we would have, when you buy your license, a checkoff system for folks under the age of 16 that I intend to turkey hunt, crossbow hunt, bear hunt, whatever the case may be, that you would have sort of a checkbox. But there's a lot of complexities to this. So we can present, you know, whatever you tell us, but if you want us to present, particularly for big game, all in addition to all the other changes that will have to happen, we'll have to have statutory change. Do we need a statutory change to eliminate the paper tag, all the paper tagging agents? Albeit they're only about 3% of tagging agents or Moses agents are paper, but they'll still need to be phased out and eliminated. And so there's a whole bunch of those sorts of changes. Likewise, the committee needs to act on the antlerless deer bill before we can move forward with. So there's a lot of changes that would have to happen. And so we can bring forward our best guess, Representative Martin, if you want us to address all of those issues for turkey, you know, we can certainly try to do that. But it's hard for us to move forward with legislation on the second bill, which is the other big game. There are so many other variables with the other big game animals. In addition, you know, do you want us to move forward with all big game, or big game moose and moose, bear, and deer? Do you want us to move forward? I mean, there's a lot of other issues with all of those other species that, you know, we feel will take a year or two to figure out all statutory changes that would need to be made to make those systems function for the hunter, the guides, and the wildlife.
Mr. Chair, I think the comment was directed at me, or the question was.
Yes.
Commissioner, you've presented some recommendations this morning in Julia's analysis. All I think the committee is asking for you to do is come up with draft legislation per your recommendations, include what can be done and don't include what can't be done. When we see that in writing during a work session, the committee will digest that and move up or down on some of the recommendations. Only then can we intelligently debate any piece of legislation. Right now, we don't have anything before us.
Okay.
Because right now it's more like a concept draft
Correct.
that, here it is, electronic tagging. Now, committee, you go and you put all the information in. And what I hear Representative Martin say, yeah, that's good, but we all hate concept drafts, I think, because, when we want to try to do legislation, we want something to react to, not create it necessarily ourselves, even though once we have something to react to, we are creating it. We have compromise, we have a lot of different things, but with just sitting here and saying, geez, what do we do? We're spinning our wheels. And I think that's what you're seeing happen today.
Sure. So what I propose is we'll move forward with a proposal for statutory changes for the turkey bill. And then we will move forward likely with a recommendation that if the committee directs us to, these are the statutory changes we would need to make for deer only. And these are all of the statutes that have to be addressed and updated, but I don't think we will have time to say rewrite all this. There's probably 40 pages of law that would have to be reviewed and rewritten to make those changes. So we could say we recommend these are the things that we would need to review and update, and we can commit to doing that by 2023.
Well, and I think that's it.
Which is what we proposed in our report.
Right. It's not, we want this next week and it'll be ready for this fall and everybody's happy. There'll be some date in the future, just like on turkeys.
Sure.
There's a date in the future that this
we can do that, but just so that we're clear.
Right. And I do agree with you, and I don't know where the committee is. I just soon for now take moose and bear out of this and just work with deer.
That narrows.
But I got a committee. Is that okay for this time around? Just deer and turkey? Thumbs up. Okay. Representative Martin.
Yeah, no, that's fine, Judy. What you can do also is, I know this is going to take some time. I know that some of this is problematic. I understand that, having worked in the department. But the department has had 6 months to work on this here. What we could do, Judy, if it'll help, once the committee votes up or down on a piece of legislation, we can always put an effective date. I mean, we can delay, we can delay this for a year. As long as the 130th legislature does something this year, and that would comply with the resolve that was enacted last year.
We can do that. I will just, and we're happy to do that, Representative Martin. I think some of the struggle we're having as well is that many of the changes needed for deer are in a separate bill for you right now that you have not voted on, or we haven't had a public hearing on it. And I know there is going to be public opposition to that bill. We fully anticipate folks are not going to be thrilled to have to pay for something they don't have to pay for now, even though that money is going to be directed toward deer, management and deer yard acquisition and management. And so some of the challenges, we're trying to craft legislation on legislation that hasn't passed yet.
And that's exactly what draft legislation is. I mean, the department has presented a piece of legislation before us several times, some of which was enacted, some not. But we need to see something in writing that this committee can debate, deliberate, and vote up or vote up and down on.
So Julia, we would hope that you'll have the chance to work with the department on this and get this to us as soon as possible. Certainly the turkey can be brought to us next week. I would ask for a time frame on the deer. Is that an extra week? Because it's a little more involved. But we certainly want to be able to work on this. Representative Ordway.
Not to put any extra work on the commissioner or her staff, but I know, and I'm not looking for an exact, but kind of an estimate of the amount of staff and that would have to be added to implement electronic tagging on deer, trucks, mileage, costs. It seems that it's going to be substantial to me. And we may just be spinning our wheels because I don't know if we're going to have the money.
Yeah, thank you, Representative Ordway, and Director Webb can chime in if I'm mistaken, but I think our initial, just sort of a quick estimate would be about $300,000 a year in staff to acquire the data that we need. Is that right, Nate?
That's correct. So there's a combination of a number of needs. One would be to provide an increased level of tech support for the self-registration system. We do have 2 staff in place right now throughout all the big game seasons and the turkey season to assist tagging agents with challenges they experience with registration. We expect the demand for that service would increase exponentially if we sort of create this system that can be used by tens of thousands of hunters. So we would need staff for that tech support. We would also need additional staff to collect the biological data. And for some species, turkey, namely, we would recommend implementing a banding study to estimate compliance with registration, which would result in an additional expense. We also pointed out in our report, there would be a loss of revenue, or I guess anticipation is that if we did develop a self-registration system, there would not be a charge for the hunter to use that. So the department would lose about $60,000 in revenue that we currently get from registration of those big game species.
You have a follow-up, Representative Ordway?
I do. Thank you, Senator. Just again, in my humble opinion, this is looking at spending a lot of money for a problem that, in my opinion, doesn't exist.
Thank you. I don't want to get in the weeds on this at the moment, but I do have a question. This whole collection of material is one that's really bugging me. You say you examine about 15% of the deer now. So my first question is, where is that done? Is that done at tagging stations? Is that done at check stations? Is that done at meat cutter stations? Where is it done?
It's a combination of all of those things, Representative Senator Dill. And so in Southern Maine, it would be easier for us to address that lack of in-person registration, because there are a number of meat cutters that we go to and frequent, and they have always have been very accommodating and save us the specimens that we need to collect the biological data. In northern, eastern, western Maine, there are far fewer of those. So staff do address, they go to tagging stations right now, particularly on key days, Youth Day, Opening Day, Saturdays. So they'll go to the actual tagging stations. In some areas of the state, sort of like in the Greenville area, we actually have to set up some check stations to interact with hunters on their way out. And we would have to sort of amplify that, do more of that, and then we would have staff that would be probably going house to house to collect that data. If we don't have a funneled spot to check people at, then we would have to go rely on individual animals. Nate, do you have something to add to that?
Well, that was my second, before you leave that was my second question, kind of. That's what concerns me, is what you just said, the aspect of going door to door and knocking on my door and say, hey, you shot a deer. Well, yep, I did, and it's all cut up and it's frozen. What do you want from me now? But that part of it kind of concerns me.
In
Some-
general, Senator Dill, if I might, we usually call the hunter first and
Okay.
ask for permission. So we're not just showing up saying, show us this or that. So we
right.
we do some of that now already. And yes, we do reach out to the hunter and ask for their permission before we come to their house, and we would.
All right.
do that.
I was just wondering how that process worked.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, so we got one part of it answered, that next Monday we can actually probably have the turkey bill. What about the deer? Do we need longer to do that? Or is that available next week too? I guess that's a commissioner question.
I will, I can commit. I don't know off the top of my head, Senator Dill, how long it's going to take us, but I can certainly, we will stay in touch with you and let you know as soon as we can what we think our estimate of time is on that, and we'll work with Julia. Will be our top priority.
Well, next week, the
Don't have
7th, we have the antlers deer public hearing. So why don't we plan on at least turkey next week, receiving it, and deer possibly the week after? That way, at least we'll have had the public hearing on the
Yeah, that makes
antlers
perfect
deer,
sense.
which may
Yep.
give you some insight into any tweaks that you may have to make. Is that suitable, committee? I see nods, so let's go with turkey next week, and then we'll go with deer the week after. And the department will work with Julia on getting us some legislation to react to. All right. Anything else for this work session? All right, we'll close the work session on these two, and we'll go now to language review. LD 1873, an act related to airboats. Julia.
Thank you, Senator Dill. I'll go ahead and share my screen that shows the language that was voted on last week. Sorry, it's not showing up as a window. Give me just one moment. There it is. Great. Okay, is everyone able to see this?
Yes.
Okay, so what was voted on was to extend the sunset for 1 year, and that is reflected here in this strikeout and 1 year replacement. And yes, if anyone has any questions, happy to field them for any technical issues.
Didn't we also ask a letter to be put forward to on this particular?
Yes, Senator Dill, we did ask for a letter. I know that you have seen that, and if you'd like to facilitate any conversation about it, I'm happy to.
Yeah, do you have a copy that we're getting ready to send out?
I have the copy that you haven't approved, but I'm happy to share the draft that we have.
Why don't you go ahead?
Okay.
Because I've at least seen it twice, and we've tweeted a couple times. So go ahead and put that draft up so that the committee can see to make sure this is what we're asking.
This is the draft letter that we currently have for the department. I'll go ahead and read it so that everyone is on the same page. So during our work session last week, the committee voted to extend the sunset on noise limits in the current law and to continue the work of the stakeholder group that was convened under the law passed last year. And the committee requests the department with the stakeholder group continue to look for ways to increase water access points for harvesters and to monitor the noise decibel level of airboats in 2022. And the department will then provide a report to the committee that has jurisdiction over matters of inland fisheries and wildlife on January 15th, 2023. Any recommendations, including statutory changes, would be provided to the committee at that time.
And my question to Julia was that since we're extending it to 2023, did we expect decibel levels of the airboats to be examined in 23 also? And working on the water access points for 2 years. And actually, since it's going until September of 23, would the report back be 23 or 24? And I would ask the committee what they feel on this. I would expect each of these would change by a year, since we are extending the date for a year, but that's up to the committee. What are your thoughts? Anybody got any thoughts? Should it be the report back is actually 24, since we're extending it until 23, the end of 23, September 23? Representative Terrio.
Yeah, I think 24 would be the appropriate number.
Yeah, I mean, we are extending it for a year, and the reason was to collect more data, so.
That's all it's all about. Make sure we get the data right and give them time to digest it and do it the right way the first time.
So then that would be collect data in 22 and 23 and report back to us in 24. Julia, in that letter. Is that agreeable? I see the department and committee members. Thumbs up. Okay. So that is the letter that we'll send out. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions, comments? Julia.
I'm happy to draft it however the committee decides. Usually if there's a time horizon that's 2 years, so asking for the report back in 2024, one other option would be to do that in an unallocated section so that it would be provided in the session law as opposed to a letter which is not tracked and doesn't, so is less likely to be used for 2 years out from now.
Okay. And put in unallocated language. That's the best place to put it.
Okay.
I think we're all in agreement that we want this done, and so whatever is the best way. So, okay. So then no letter would be unallocated language, correct? You're muted, Julia.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, that's correct, Senator Dill.
All right, thank you. All right, next is LD 1663, an act to improve boater safety on Maine waters. One question too, Julia, since we did kind of change the law a little bit, do we have to re-vote on that? That it's now an unallocated language, whereas before it was just, we probably should, shouldn't we?
You won't need to revote because it's not a substantive change, but I will bring it back for language review next week.
All right.
Yeah. And just give me 1 second to pull up. Okay. So this, again, is a small change that reflects the conversation, a language change that reflects the conversation that was had by the committee last week. What it does is it takes section 5 of 1663 and sets that it will be repealed. And in section 5A, we specified, as was requested, that it is on inland waters of the state. This language was not here in the language review last week.
Okay. Any questions anyone has for Julia on this one? All right, seeing none. Ups, Representative Hepler.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm using a lower laptop and I don't even see the hand raise section here, so sorry about that. One of the things that was pointed out to me, and I can, is on the top of the second page, number 3, I think it's still the top of the second page, about operating motorboat other than personal watercraft while underage. And one of the things that was raised to me is that there could be the part that's actually not, yeah, right there. A person under 12 may not operate a motorboat propelled by machinery of more than 10 horsepower unless under the immediate supervision of a person located in the motorboat who is at least, and it had been 16 and it was 18. And that section is actually applies to both inland and coastal waters. It was raised as a concern by DMR. It's not, it's just something that might come up in the future. The example that was given to me had to do with siblings.
If there's a substantive question, I'd prefer to direct it to the department, if that's okay.
So I'm Representative Hepler. I don't understand the question.
So on number 3, the first part of that section, a person under 12 may not operate a motorboat propelled by machinery more than 10 unless under the immediate supervision of a person located in the motorboat who is at least 18 years of age. A question was raised about what about a couple of, siblings going out in a boat. In other words, this section seems to apply to both inland and coastal waters. I'm thinking of kids, going out lobstering.
Yeah, I'm actually going to ask Deputy Commissioner to come on because I thought we were not going to. So the rest of that's all current law. So that's the way the rule is right now.
Yeah.
So I'll just ask Deputy Commissioner. I was under the impression that we weren't changing the 16 to 18. And we were leaving this as the law currently is.
Which would be 16.
Yeah, but I can't see Tim, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's here on the top. Go ahead, Colonel.
I'm gonna have Senator Dale have Linda call in Colonel Scott
Sure.
in the waiting room, please.
Yep. Linda, could you let in Colonel Scott, please?
On his way.
You better run. Good morning, Colonel Scott. I see you on the screen, but I don't know if you can hear me yet.
There we go. Sure, I can answer that, Representative Hepler. Yeah, that is, so that section does apply to all waters of the state, both inland waters and tidal waters. That's current law as written, the 16-year-old age. The change to 18 was to bring that up to speed with the other section of law that's currently continues to apply to all waters of the state is the personal watercrafts. Anybody who's operating one at 16 needs to be accompanied by somebody of 18. That was just an effort to try to make those consistent across the board. I mean, we have age limits throughout Title 12 with ATVs and snowmobiling and boating, and they vary from 10 to 12 to 14 to 16 to 18 to 21 in some cases. And so the other requirements for accompanied by an adult that's in place right now is personal watercraft, which is 18. So that was in an effort to just make that more consistent. That statute applies to both inland and tidal waters today at 16 years old. And that would continue to apply the over 10 accompaniment to both tidal and inland waters after the boating safety requirement goes in. What the boating safety requirement does do is that does not apply to tidal waters. So the new boater safety certificate that you need to obtain if you're over 12 years old, does not apply to any tidal waters with the new language that we proposed today. However, the age requirements and accompaniments do in some cases still apply because they are current law.
Does that answer your question, Representative Hepler? Yep, go ahead. You're frozen now.
All right, actually, thank you again. Thank you, Colonel Scott. It was raised to me as a possible concern, changing that from 16 to 18 on coastal waters. It's all it. So if it becomes an issue of younger people, brothers and sisters, going out to their boat, it just might become an issue. So
you
sure,
keep,
no, but I appreciate that. There's always a line, whether it's 14 and how old the sibling is, 16, how old, 18. If it becomes an issue, we deal with it. But anytime we set an age limit, there's somebody who's concerned depending on their particular situation.
Does that answer your question, Representative Hepler?
Thanks.
Yep. Are there other questions? So therefore we are leaving it at 18. Or changing it to 18. Does that answer your question though, Representative Hepler? You keep fading in and out, so I'm not sure if it did or not.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, it does. I just would brought up that might be an issue in the future, and we know about it. So
right. Okay. Yes, Deputy Commissioner Peabody.
Senator Dill, we've been working with DMR on these changes, and I just want to make Deirdre Gilbert, the policy advisor for DMR, is actually on. She's available. I just want to make sure that she's on board with this discussion that's going on right now.
Okay, she's on our screen. So Deidre, can you hear me?
I can.
Yep. Is that okay? Moving that to 18.
Sorry. Thank you, Senator Dill, Representative Landry. Yes, the department doesn't have an objection to changing that age. We just really wanted to make sure that the committee was making this change with the full understanding that this is kind of a unique circumstance where it could impact marine users who are participating in commercial activities on the coastal waters of the state. And as Representative Hepler said, the most common reason that would happen is that, kids fishing in combination with each other as siblings, some of those arrangements will be fine under this change, and some of those will be impacted by this change. We don't think that's significant, but we just wanted to make sure people understood that that was the case. So we're not raising an objection, just a point of information.
Okay. Is everybody all set with the language here? Any other questions? All right, then I guess we're all set with this one too. All right, anything else, Julia, you have for us?
I don't, Senator Dill.
Linda, anything you have for us?
No, we're all set here.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn, please? So moved by Representative Alley, seconded by Representative Martin. All in favor? None opposed?